Hello and welcome back to the Hurdle the Line podcast. Now, this is a voice, and if you're watching on YouTube, this is a face you might be familiar with from previous episodes. But I'm yet to take the reins on this one yet so far. Unfortunately, we're working on a slightly slimmed down roster this week, which would normally be a problem, but given who I've got with me today, it's not a problem whatsoever. So, before we get going, I want to ask you, Tom, Ollie, how are you doing on this fine bank holiday Monday?
Doing
Yeah, I'm
good.
doing all right. Yeah, doing good. I'm sad that it's coming to an end,
Yeah,
bank
over
holiday. It
over
always
too
just seems to go
quickly.
so quickly, my God. But yeah, enjoying my Sunday evening. No, Monday evening even. It feels like Sunday evening.
Have either of you done much over this bank holiday weekend to truly take it, or has it been like, has it been one of them? Nice bit of rest and a bit of a chill this weekend?
It's one of those where you go, yeah, I'll be productive. I'll do some stuff, and then you don't, you kind of don't really do anything, and then the whole weekend's over, and you're like, oh right, that was didn't really achieve
Well,
anything that weekend,
I,
did
I
I? So
did. I did do a few. I went to Nottingham. Obviously, I went to uni in Nottingham, so kind of reminisce, went back to the old haunts and stuff with one of my good mates. So that was good fun. Managed to lose my bag on at the airport, not the airport, on the train on the way there, which was good fun.
Oh,
But I
lovely.
did manage to get it back the day afterwards because it was at a different depot or whatever. So that was the stress I didn't need.
No,
But yeah, overall a nice weekend. The weather was decent, so it wasn't too bad.
optimism. Now, I'm a bit gutted today because the one person I wanted on today, now, Chapman let us know last minute that he couldn't make it because I think he's been out and had a few beers today. Now this is the weekend where I'm thinking we definitely need Chapman on because I want drunk Chapman on the podcast. I don't know about you guys, but he's brilliant in the group chat. He's got to be even better on the podcast.
Oh, definitely.
And Chapman has also submitted some news for Break the Huddle as well, so that you'll have to wait for. But I'll tell you someone who hasn't had a nice, relaxed weekend, and that would be our usual host, Sam. And boys, I know that all of us would like to do it anyway, and I'll give both your opportunity to say so in a second. But we'd like from everyone at the Asleep at Work Network and Hurdle the Line, and as mentioned on Friday on College Football UK, we want to wish Sam and his wonderful wife the biggest congratulations in the whole world on the birth of their brand new baby boy, Arthur Jude. So that's one way to spend your bank holiday anyway, isn't it, lads?
yeah, yeah,
Definitely. Yeah, yeah.
Um,
the
but
responsibilities of fatherhood and a newborn baby, but I'm sure it's all worth it in
it
the end.
is. It is. I say that as a father through gritted teeth. Um, those days.
And now Arthur Jude can become, the 25th Rams
Yep.
fan that we know
Yeah,
They
that
did. They
are
did.
in
They
existence.
did need a couple more fans maybe fill a
Definitely.
to maybe
fill a
fill a
row.
bus, but
Yeah.
so
But
they're,
yeah,
they're getting
anyway,
there.
yeah,
They're getting there. But
congratulations
yeah,
to
congratulations
Sam,
to Sam. Yeah,
and wishing him all the best. Hopefully, he's been able to get at least one wink of sleep, but I'm sure that's not the case. But yeah, wish him all the best, and look forward to seeing him when he's back on.
No, I didn't think of this beforehand, but this is a nice little segue. It was a nice little segue from the bank holidays into congratulating Sam, and this is a nice little from that news to our regular news segment in Break the Huddle. Ollie, over to you.
yep. So as normal with the last couple of weeks, not too much news going on in the NFL sphere. We've been trying to scrape the barrel almost to find some news, but we have managed to find some stuff to that we think is relevant in the NFL. First and foremost, the highly anticipated EA college football game has its release date, which is the 19th of July, and pre-orders are now available. And this includes a MVP edition bundle where you can pre-order both the college football game and the new Madden game, and you get them both obviously at the same time. Fanatics, one of the biggest licensed sportswear company, the NFL, like to be partnerships with the NFL, are suing Cardinals rookie wide receiver and former Ohio State Buckeye Marvin Harrison Jr. They are suing him for breach of contract, alleging to a contract signed in 2023. However, Harrison's camp have publicly denied that such contract exists. So quite a confusing situation going on there. Something I think we're all kind of keen to see how that unfolds and see how that kind of goes moving forward. The NFL have visited Australia, France and Ireland to scope potential stadium sites for future games. Just kind of gives you an insight into how the NFL is looking to even expand more globally, maybe get a few more international games in different countries, new countries, and maybe some more in the existing countries as well. And as we've alluded to before, on Hurdle the Line, we might get to a point soon where every week we got an international game. So that just kind of ties in with that. Number one for Tom, probably some good news for him for one of the situations that the Chiefs wide receiver Rashee Rice found himself in this offseason. All charges have been dropped against him regarding his assault charge and allegations. Kind of weird. It was then, so the photographer that pressed the charges has dropped the charges and claimed it was a misunderstanding. So hopefully everything is resolved in that situation, and all parties involved can move forward. Bit of injury news. Cleveland Browns quarterback Deshaun Watson is back throwing at full capacity during the Browns OTAs this week. And as we like to say in Cleveland, we are officially on zip watch. So that's a good sign for Browns fans, with Watson coming back from his season-ending injury last season. And then the other AFC North quarterback that suffered in a season-ending injury last season, Joe Burrow, also back to throwing at full capacity, and it's been reported that he has no pitch count during OTAs, meaning he's obviously a full go. Which is good news for Browns fans, good news for Bengals fans and NFL fans as a whole. Maybe not so much Browns fans, but
yeah, maybe not so much Browns
fans.
But
NFL fans as a whole, he's a great dude, great player. So everyone loves watching him play, even if it is against your favourite team. So good news for everyone there. Initially, I structured a whole apology about how we didn't have any helmet headlines this week, but our producer Fletch has saved us. So we do have this week's edition of Helmet Headlines. And that is regarding a new helmet, which is rather interesting. It incorporates 5G connection. It has been developed to help deaf and people that are hearing deficient. It's to help them kind of communicate with the sideline and get plays more efficiently, basically. So I think the way it works is that if they don't quite obviously hear everything that's been called out to them, it can use the 5G connection to display the play through their visor, which obviously anything that can get more people involved in the sport, anything that brings inclusivity into the sport is a good thing. So yeah, that's our bit of helmet headline news this week. That's our news for this week. Again, not much, but at Hurdle the Line, we will always try our hardest to bring you as much NFL relevant news as we can. So, yeah, that's this week's news.
I like how. First off, I appreciate it, Ali. Thank you very much. I like how we've got one of the most anticipated games for a long time being released. We've got one of the hottest rookies out of the draft, potentially the best player coming into the NFL this season, is being sued by one of the NFL's biggest partners. The NFL are expanding internationally, over multiple continents. We've got an NFL star, multiple Super Bowl winner, having charges dropped against him. A 70-year-old having a baby, which is that one's even crazier. Complete inclusivity for deaf and hard of hearing players, and quarterbacks throw footballs in training. The news just seems one of these is not like the other.
I know what you mean. It's the Al Davis one.
It is.
We didn't need to talk about that. We didn't need to talk about it.
We didn't, but we did it for Chapman.
We did it for Chapman.
Shout out to Chapman. Hopefully he's enjoying a few more beers, and we'll listen to this podcast at some point. So.
But I think it'd be daft of us, I think, to just simply move on from those headlines without having a little bit of a chat about them. I'm going to throw it straight to you here, Tom. And we'll try and get this one out the way as quickly as possible, because we're not legal experts, and the last thing we've got to do is get into legal conversations. But what does it mean for the Chiefs right now that Rashee Rice's charges have been dropped? Is that just one less distraction around the camp?
Yeah, I think so. I think it's a good thing. It kind of takes a bit off the limelight, away from it, which I think is a good thing. I think the Chiefs just need to work this off season without everyone focusing on whatever their players are doing, whether it's Wanya Morris or Rashee Rice or whatever. Like the fact that there's some charges that have been dropped. Obviously, there's still the pending charges in relation to the reckless driving and stuff in Dallas, but at least now there's less to worry about. Yeah. I know I was quite surprised to see that Rashee Rice is working out the OTAs with everyone else, but the fact that the Chiefs have got him in and getting him involved in the offense and everything, I would say bodes well, but we'll just have to see what ramifications do come from it. Obviously, the NFL just waiting for all legal proceedings to kind of come to a halt or finish their investigation, and then I'm sure they'll take the appropriate action that they need to. But yeah, I'm happy there's one less thing for the Chiefs to worry about, really.
Yeah. No, you're right. That's absolutely right. And throwing it over to you now, Ollie. Obviously, it was the Al Davis one that wasn't like the other, so we'll go to some real news in quarterbacks throwing footballs and training. What does it mean for you right now? And look, you've already. I saw a video earlier today of Jameis Winston in the Browns facility, looking very upbeat, sounding really positive, going into the training facility and getting ready to go. Sounded to me like. Look, I don't want to comment on the Browns QB situation, and I'm not saying he didn't sound arrogant or anything, but sounded like he's just ready to get going and ready to do whatever it takes to win. And as great as it is to have someone like Jameis Winston, what does it mean to have Deshaun Watson back in the capacity that he's back already in May?
Yeah, so it's good from the aspect of, I think there's been a lot of either confusion or kind of anticipation from fans because we've not had that much information. We've just kind of been told that he will be ready to go at the start of the season. So kind of obviously before the OTAs and the players got back in the building, I think there was that bit of nerves, like, are we being told things that aren't, kind of like last season, how that went. We were told one thing, but it was kind of the other thing. So I think first and foremost, it's just a relief to see him out there throwing at what appears to be, full capacity. He doesn't, all the videos that have come out, all the images that have come out, doesn't seem like that shoulder's, affecting him at all. Seems to be throwing as, his full motion, in as full velocity. So obviously that's a positive. It's a good thing moving forward to start the season, and it means that hopefully he is fully healthy for training camp. So obviously with the new offensive coordinator Dorsey coming in, with the kind of focus on shifting the offense slightly and tweaking it from last season, it will be beneficial for him to be get the majority of those reps in training camp. So for him to be fit, him to be healthy, him to be throwing is obviously a good thing for the Browns.
Yeah, and finally, I want to throw it to both of you, I guess, here. Now, I originally was feeling sorry for him until you reminded me that he was a Buckeye, and now I hope Fanatics take him to the cleaners again. It's one of those things. But it's important to note that, MHJ and Fanatics have been in a bit of... Well, they haven't been beefing themselves, but with MHJ not signing his NFLPA agreement until this week when he signed his NFL contract, he's not been able to have his jersey on Fanatics, and that's been one of the biggest things mentioned so far since the draft is, when will you get to buy a Marvin Harrison Jr. Jersey off Fanatics? The suing has nothing to do with that. It has nothing to do with anything to do with his NFL deal or the NFLPA. This all stems from his college days and a deal he had with Fanatics, like you said, from 2023. I'm going to throw it to you, Ollie, first, because you are one of those weird people who support that god-awful college team. so it may be a bit more related to you, this one. But can you give us a little bit more insight into exactly what's going on with it? Yeah, you can put that in the bin now.
From what I've heard, so it's a contract that players sign in college, and it covers them through the draft, through that period of when they initially join the NFL, if they do get to that point, as far as I understand, which obviously means that they would have the licensing and the rights to his name and likeness. And I think, you mentioned the jersey sales. I think a massive part of this as well is the trading card stuff, which obviously I know none of us are really into that, but in America especially, that is a massive market. Is the trading card stuff, and so obviously with them not being able to capitalize on his name, image, and likeness, that's potential money that they're missing out on. So you can obviously understand why the company, aren't happy about this. But then, yeah, it's just confusing because obviously his camp is saying that this contract was never even signed. So I guess we're going to have to just wait and see how this plays out. If Fanatics are able to prove that such contract exists, and if it did, obviously see where the lawsuit goes. But I think it is also interesting to note that so alongside not signing the contract, he's also been selling his own memorabilia on his own website.
Yeah.
So obviously Fanatics are not happy about him not signing the contract anyway, and then they see him profiting off his own name, and what the most capitalistic companies not enjoy. That's the consumer the consumer winning. So when they see that, it's probably going to make them even more angry and make them want to go forward with this lawsuit even more. But it's just it's a confusing situation. Something I think would only happen with someone like Marvin Harrison Jr. with how he kind of defied the norm, the stereotype, the kind of status quo of how athletes kind of do the process, the draft process, and how everything, how they go through that. Maybe it's the new generation. Maybe, pardon me. Maybe we're going to see more of this. Obviously, we saw similar things with Caleb, and not quite to this extent, but just how they kind of defied the status quo of the usual process that goes into this stuff. So, yeah, it's odd, but I'm obviously going to take the side of Marvin Harrison Jr. I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. Believe what his camp are saying, and at the end of the day, I'm always going to side with the player. Benefiting from their name and likeness than someone that has nothing to do with them. So that's my opinion on it.
Is it because he's a Buckeye, or are you just scared of his dad?
Yeah. I mean, I think I'm taller than his dad. His dad's actually quite... That's what makes it even funnier. Like, his dad's not that big, and then you get Marvin Harrison Jr. that's absolutely brilliant.
But, Tom, I'm going to throw this to you. As far as Marvin Harrison Jr. goes, it seems to be just Fanatics claim there's a contract there, and Marvin Harrison Jr. hasn't fulfilled the contractual obligations. And as far as Marvin Harrison Jr. cares, there was no contract in the first place. Again, similar to, I guess, in some of the ways Rishi Rice and the issues that you've had with him. Is this just an unwelcome distraction now for Marvin Harrison Jr., or is this something that, look, this kid's an elite athlete, is this something he just get on with and let the lawyers deal with it?
I'm sure. I don't know. I feel like it's probably not a distraction for him, but maybe for the Cardinals a bit. The fact that it's just kind of the process is being longed out. But as Ollie said, I mean, I back the player. Obviously, the way he's handled the process of going through the combine and everything is unconventional as opposed to some. And like it'll be interesting to see if he changes any of the way that he approaches things when he's actually playing in the NFL. But obviously he's got like a set way that he does things, and he's learned a lot of things from his dad and stuff. So yeah, I mean, I would decide side with the player just because it's their likeness, it's their, and then another company is just profiting off of that anyway. So the fact that he's profiting off it, off his own back, and got his own memorabilia and stuff, obviously they're not going to be happy about it because they're not able to monetize his likeness, his everything. So, but yeah, I'd be interested to see if he continues to take the approach that he's taken so far, throughout his NFL career, and whether that stands him in good stead or whether that like gets him
Yeah.
into other like unfavorable situations with tons of contracts and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah. So, well, I think that'll be it for the news. Unless either of you have any serious comments on Al Davis, or in fact, I will ask you both this question. No, we're all right. We're all right on that one. Before we do move on, though, I'm just going to ask if you pre-ordered it yet. I've already pre-ordered college football. I'm not pre-ordering the MVP bundle, but I've pre-ordered college football. Have either of you done it yet?
I haven't yet, but I am going to.
I
Yeah,
haven't
definitely.
because did I mention when I said the news that it is only available on PS5 and Xbox X? So I do need to finally bite the bullet and buy the PS5 before I do make such orders. So to answer your
I need to
question,
do the
no.
same. I actually need to do the same as well because I've got the Xbox One S, but I need to get either the X or the PS5.
Yeah,
So.
so
I thought you'd be protesting after how dirty they did the Buckeyes in the little trailers. And
I know
that.
they had the Illinois whatever it's called, like the turtle thing that that the winner get, and they had Illinois lifting it, and it's like they haven't beaten us in 20 years. Like what? How is that even like? Why have you put that in the trailer? Did he go to Michigan, the developer? He must have.
Probably.
He must.
I was going to say some of the people who worked on it definitely just.
There was no Buckeye love at
Michigan
all. It was all just like a couple of slight, like, do you know what I mean, backhanded slaps towards the Buckeyes.
There'll be someone though. Next year there'll be.
And having Donovan Edwards as the cover, like he's not even the best running back on his team. Like what?
And it was Donovan Edwards who absolutely sent someone in, like he juked and just sent Buckeye. Absolute quality. I loved it. That's why I pre-ordered it, to be honest with you. That's why I went deluxe as well.
Well, it's all right because at least the first year of the game will be the year that the Buckeyes win the national championship. So.
Oi, there we go. Fine talk.
That's fine. And then you'll turn your PlayStation off, and it'll have never really happened. So, anyway, we'll get on to the main chunk of the episode. Now, gentlemen, I very much appreciate... Nope, I'm going to start that one again. Right, we're going to get into the main chunk of the actual episode now. And, gentlemen, I want to propose to you a concept that's a little bit interesting. Shout out to Chapman again. Chapman shared a tweet in our group chat earlier this week, and I actually found this concept to be really interesting. Imagine a world where teams could not announce trades. And I also want you to imagine, and I think it's a bit deeper than this, because you've got to imagine a world without your Adam Schefters, without your Ian Rappaports, without your Tom Pelisseros, who are also not leaking this information, your journalists who are not sat outside the Browns training facility waiting to take pictures of who's coming in and out. I want you to imagine a world where you do not know throughout the season, the off-season, what trades have happened at all. The only way you find out what trades have happened is by tuning in on week one. Maybe in pre-season, but in week one. So what I want to ask you here, really, for me, this week, is I want you to imagine yourself, any season up until, again, you can include trades this off-season too. I want you to think of some trades over the last few years. And imagine yourself sitting down on week one, you've just turned on Red Zone, you've just turned on a game, and all of a sudden, someone is lining up for a team, and you end up kind of double taking and going, what the hell? Why? When? Why? Why did that happen? So I'm guessing this is some of the more crazy trades, or some of the stranger trades in NFL history. But throw
some
some
of the
out
dumbest trades.
Some of the dumbest trades. But I'm guessing it is more just down to, if you were sat there week one and you had no idea what trades had happened, which trades have you most dumbfounded opening week one?
Do you want to start early or should I?
I mean, you can start if you want. My one, I've got a pretty good one, obviously, as a Browns fan. So I'll let you do the honours and start.
Okay, well, I'm going to start with Tyreek Hill lining up for the Dolphins like Mahomes goes out, he's like, where's number 10 at? And I'm not talking about Isaiah Pacheco. Um, like that, I mean, that whole off season was crazy anyway, but there was hardly any inkling of anything other than the fact that, he wanted to be one of the highest paid receivers. And then as soon as Devontae Adams got his deal, then like he wanted more money, which Chiefs wanted to give. But from not hearing any of that and then just going from the end of one season to the start of the next and seeing Tyreek line up with Tua Tagovailoa or Tua turn the ball over, but and yeah, that would gobsmack me for sure. And I got one more, and then I'll give it to Ollie. Um, what about the Tennessee Titans and the Philadelphia Eagles? AJ Brown lining up in Philadelphia with Jalen Hurts, and they got what, Traylon Burks? They're like, where the hell is AJ Brown gone? Why is our best receiver, who never should have let go? Why is he playing for
They'd be like,
the
why have we got
Philadelphia
the Timu version of AJ Brown
Yeah,
like that?
literally, that's it.
He's got the
It's like a
similar
Wish
physique.
version.
Yeah, it's like the
It's
Wish
just
version. Like he's got a similar physique, but he doesn't play like him. I don't understand.
exactly. Yeah, it's like his comp was AJ Brown, but
Yeah,
it's like oh, what is it? It was like if you go on Craigslist and you call, oh yeah, like, oh, I'm buying AJ Brown or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah. I'm
Like,
buying him off
it's just
Wish or
straight
Timu
apart.
or.
Like that would, yeah. If I was a Titans fan, I would be sick to my stomach. But yeah, those are just two that I came off the bat.
Well, I mean, imagine this, right? Obviously, if you're not Browns fans, it might be a little bit harder to quite grasp how crazy this would be. But 20, so not last season, the season before, we start the season against the Panthers, right? Obviously, the previous season didn't end very well. There's speculation about. But obviously, I'm not sure what even it is. If there's no reporters reporting the trades, then we probably didn't even know about the speculation of things being bad. So you wouldn't even have that context. So season starts against the Panthers. Jacoby Brissett runs out of the tunnel for the Browns. You're thinking, that's odd. That's like, is Baker hurt? Did he get hurt or something? Like, what's going on there? Then Baker Mayfield runs out of the tunnel for the Panthers, not the Browns. And you go in, what on earth is happening? Is happening here? We traded Baker for Jacoby Brissett. Like, what a terrible move that was. What on earth are we doing? Right, all of that to happen for then 11 weeks later, in week 12, against the Texans, Deshaun Watson to come out for the Browns. And you're just there as a Browns fan, like, I'm sorry, what on earth is happening? Like, started the season thinking you're getting Jacoby Brissett, and then Deshaun Watson just turns up halfway through the season against his old team as well. So and then obviously he's playing against Baker on the first day. It all connects itself. It'd just be hilarious to try and grasp that. So that, as soon as you gave the idea, that was the first thing I thought about, was obviously the Deshaun Watson one. But then would we know if he was, like, obviously I'm guessing I would probably know that he was on the team by week 1, but being suspended. Obviously I'm saying that pretending that we wouldn't know that he was on the team until he came on the pitch in week 12, which would just be like, wow, what is going on? But I've got a few more as well, just kind of to entertain the idea. I mean, Brady to the Bucks is another one. The GOAT, obviously, turning up in Tampa and then actually winning the Super Bowl his first year.
Can you add Gronk going to the Bucks as well within that?
Yeah,
Yeah.
surely. Yeah, I would say so.
But I mean, Brady just obviously, I suppose it was kind of anticipated that there was maybe going to be a separation, but no one expected it to be the Bucks, or for it to even happen, let alone it be the Bucks. And the Russell Wilson one, I think, is funny for both. Like the Broncos trade in the first place, because like no one thought he was going to leave Seattle. They almost seemed like a marriage that was always going to continue until he retired, and he'd retire a Seahawk.
Been there 9 years.
Yeah, and it was a shock to everyone when he got. So the initial trade to the Broncos would have been like, whoa, what is going on here? And then for 2 years later, Steelers fans to turn up week 1 and Russ to be quarterbacking for them, and then be like, hold on a minute, what on earth is going on here? and then they just see on the sideline Justin Fields holding a clipboard, and they're like, "What is going on?"
He's lining up in the gunner on.
Yeah, that's it. He's returning punts that they entertain the idea of.
But even imagine being a Bears fan in that one though. You walking out is Caleb Williams, but you're wondering where Justin Fields is, and then like you say, he's lining up in a gunner on a punt for the Steelers.
They'll be like, all the ones that didn't like him will be like, I told you.
Literally.
You can't even start over Russell Wilson.
I think the Russell Wilson one was up there with one of the ones when I was thinking about it as well. I had Russell Wilson in mind.
But branching from that as well with the clipboard thing, I mean, Kenny Pickett, obviously of the Eagles, and like someone like Matt Jones, like you just tune in to watch a random, like you'll see it on Red Zone, like because obviously none of us are actually going to tune in to watch the Jaguars game, but you'll see the Jaguars on Red Zone, and then you'll just see Matt Jones on the sideline with a clipboard, like what? That doesn't make any sense.
If you're the Broncos this year, tune in and Zach Wilson.
Yeah, Zach Wilson's there on the bench holding.
And Bo Nix. So, like, one of the questions I wanted to pose to you is, I think, and I kind of did before we went on, was in the draft. I mean, even with the draft, do you find out, do you get to watch the draft as normal? And maybe it just says so-and-so has traded up to get from pick 18 to pick 12, but you don't know what they've thrown in there. What would be the situation there? And even then, would you just find out would you just find out who your team's drafted when they turn up? Because that wouldn't make too much sense. But if you find out at least the order of the draft, imagine being a Broncos fan. Russell Wilson's nowhere to be seen. Zach Wilson stood there, and then you find out you give up 12 for Bo Nix.
Mate, as a Browns fan, that would just the pure terror that would have given Browns fans of not having like all these high picks and being excited, and then you turn up and there's Brandon Whedon. Do you know what I mean? Or Gilbert the corner, like just all of these terrible players that you'd be so excited for, and then week one you'd be like, oh, for God's sake. I was just going to say another one with the draft, just as we were saying about the draft. Ricky Williams. Imagine you know that you give up your entire draft for someone and you don't know who it is until week one. And then it is Ricky Williams, and you're like, am I excited? I don't really know. Like, obviously ended up only playing 3 years, so probably not too excited in the end. But
I think as well, actually, in that they should do a thing just before, like for your draft picks, you get to find out the day before, and they present all your draft picks on a stage. And I think to watch the Saints just bring out Ricky Williams on his own.
That'd be so funny.
That would be good.
Where's the rest
really
of them?
funny.
They'd be like,
are they okay?
What happened to all of your draft picks? We traded them all.
It would be like the Herschel Walker one as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, was
that when he went from the Cowboys?
Yeah, Cowboys to the Vikings.
The Vikings.
It's still the biggest trade. There was 18 players or picks involved.
That's just insane.
But there was a third team in that as well. I think it might have been the San Diego Chargers or St. Louis Rams. I can't remember which one it was. One of them was also involved in that trade. Jumped in on it as like a third team trade. But yeah, that'd be another one where you give up all of that, and then you, like as a Vikings fan, and then you get Herschel Walker, who didn't even have 1,000 yards once in the 2.5 years he was there.
What about if you're picking second, and then pops up in Chicago, then Mitch Trubisky is just standing at the front door, like, hello, I'm here. Oh man. I wouldn't have loved that anyway. But
you see, if you find out and all of a sudden he turns up and you go, "Oh, great, our third round pick's here."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it would be the same with like the Trey Lance thing as well. It's like, we picked him in the 4th round. Oh, that's great. Oh no. Oh yeah, no. Oh,
we gave up 3 first round picks for it. Oh right. Oh, yeah. I mean, all I can say is I would not be a fan of this system. especially as a Browns fan, with how the drafts and recent things have got. Like, no, this would bring me too much stress, man. Like I wouldn't be able to cope. Like there's just no way I could go a whole off season being like, who are they going to bring in, and then just wait until week one to see it.
Yeah.
You would be like if you're not allowed within, say, like so many miles of a training facility with a camera, or even just as a whole. Every training facility has miles of dead space. So you'd be sat around Cleveland looking in every Denny's, in every McDonald's, in every KFC. Like, is someone here that I can notice who could be? But then they could be visiting an auntie who lives in the area. They're not at a facility. So what's got? But I was gonna throw this one out there for myself and just say, like, I want you to imagine being a Lions fan, and after 12 years you've had Matthew Stafford. Things aren't looking too great. Maybe you know that your head coach has just been fired, but you kind of think it's Matthew Stafford. He'll be here. A few months later, Jared Goff walks out, and I just at the time, and I think sometimes when trades happen, that doesn't actually seem, even at the time, it didn't necessarily seem as egregious that we had Jared Goff in the building, because we got so many other picks with him as well. No one really complained too much, and we understood the assignment with it. But my thought here has been, like, with context as it's happening, it makes sense. The trade makes sense. Stafford was unhappy. We had a new head coach come in. Conversations were had. With all that, the trade makes sense. But if you didn't know any of that stuff before, the season just ends, and then 6 months later, 7 months later, Stafford's in LA and Goff's in front of you. It's wild. No one knows.
You would be shocked by it, definitely. Yeah, you would be.
This is one of the things I think with the concept of this is actually a lot of the trades we have the benefit of the bit before, the bit after, the rumours, the hearing things from players. Imagine players aren't even allowed to tweet certain things or say certain things in interviews that they're unhappy. Aaron Rodgers then all of a sudden being in the Jets. And you don't have that context before of Aaron Rodgers is unhappy. Some of these, I think, like I say, with context, some of these trades are even wilder.
I was going to say with the Aaron Rodgers one, I swear they've been discontent for like years though.
Oh yeah.
Well, since they drafted Love, really, wasn't it?
Yeah, basically the front office and him, like Brian Gutekunst,
Dudicast, I think. Dudicast.
Yeah, he's the
Dudy's the nickname, I think they called him.
Yeah, but like he created that rift already with drafting Jordan Love, and it was only a matter of time at that point. But yeah, I totally get your point though. Yeah, it's crazy.
So not to toot my own horn here, but I've recently kind of let you know, Ollie, that there's someone I know who works for the Browns, or I know their wife, because he used to work for the Lions a few years ago, and we got a little bit of a tip-off after that season. I think it was week 16 or week 15, because that was when it was a shortened season and there was only 17 weeks in a season rather than 18, because it was the last season of that. The Lions played the Packers at Ford Field. My friend overheard, her husband overheard the conversation after the game. Rodgers went in and had a chat with Stafford. You know, like as players do, they wait till after the game. People clear the locker room. Quarterbacks go and have a chat. And both of them had a conversation, and both of them sat there and went, "What are you doing next season?" And both of them went, "I don't know."
Wow.
Like a lot of things could happen. I'm not sure. Stafford was very much a case of, I'm not sure if I want to do. And this was something that we spoke about on a podcast that I had a few years ago, and I was just like, look, Stafford's not happy. He's not happy with this. But again, that's context that you get around and understanding a position that a player's taking. Like I said, that adds to that context that helps understand a trade a bit better.
Yeah.
And I think, is there any trades out there that you think, I guess, without context, with context, they make perfect sense? But I know it's a bit of a difficult one to ask because, again, I'm asking you to be in an alternate universe where you don't have the context. but any of them that are without context that all of a sudden don't make any sense.
I mean, not to the elephant in the room, but obviously the Deshaun Watson one, if we didn't know the off the field issues,
Yeah.
and we had no idea why he became available, I think if you were a Houston fan, you'd be absolutely at arms in the air, going, "Why on earth have we just traded this guy that's just made a three consecutive Pro Bowls, just led the league in passing for us? Why on earth would we trade this guy?" And obviously, from a Browns perspective, it would have been pure joy from their end. Obviously, if there was no context as to why he was even available to be, on the trade market. So yeah, that's one that I think would stick out the most to me.
What about Eli
Definitely
Manning?
for me, it's the Chiefs though as well. It's with what Ali said as well. Without context, Tyreek Hill, supposedly an untouchable player, like in that list of Mahomes, Kelsey, Tyreek Hill, basically, Chris Jones, like those are the guys. And then without context, to just go from he's on the Chiefs to he's now on a different team without any sort of rhyme or reason or whatever, like just gobsmacked. To be honest, I mean, I was gobsmacked with the trade anyway. I was literally like the day of it, like they put out the post being like, "Oh, thanks Tyreek," and I was like, well, "What the hell is going on?" Literally in like a scroll the next.
How could we possibly recover from this? Wins two
Yeah, I
Super
was
Bowls.
like, "What?" Yeah, literally, I was like, "Yeah, no." To be fair, I'm not crying wolf now,
Yeah.
but at the time, I was like, what the hell is going on?" I hope they know what they're doing, and obviously they did. So,
Yeah, I think they
I
didn't suffer too much from that trade in the end,
no.
I
and
mean,
the
look,
players you got from the picks as well. I mean,
you'd already won a Super Bowl, but it wasn't a dynasty yet.
No.
You don't have enough evidence to go off that Tyreek Hill wasn't like a key piece to the point where it crumbles without him. Or
No.
so I can imagine how strange or like what that would have been. But I want to kind of throw to Eli Manning. In at the end of the day, you're not allowed to report on trades. And again, the rules, what we're going to do surrounding can we, when can we, how can we find out the draft picks, I don't know.
Yeah.
And that's something that I don't think we fully thought through at this point in time. But could you imagine, you've watched college football for the last 4 years, or you've been watching for the last season, Eli Manning is your consensus number one. And then he's lining up for the Giants next year. First time. How did he if you don't know what happened, and you don't know if the Giants traded up for him, for all intents and purposes, you think he fell quite far to the
well, you
Giants.
assume that they traded up,
Yeah.
and that's why that obviously Rivers is now at the Chargers, and you'd assume that obviously they traded picks and picked the two players, and then you'd find the context out and be like, whoa, what?
Yeah, what about I got one for you, which was a weird one. If you don't know the context, this is anyway. When Drew Brees playing for the San Diego Chargers at the time, and he was like, their guy, then randomly turns up in New Orleans, and then ends up having like a Hall of Fame career, like in New Orleans anyway. But if I was a Chargers fan at that point, I would be like, what the hell is going on? Like that was. Because obviously, I think Phillip Rivers was his backup, right? Wasn't he? And then obviously he went on to have a great career. But if at the time, and then not knowing anything,
I mean, I think they brought Rivers in knowing that they were going to move on from Breeze, obviously, but and then obviously he went down to Jones to the Saints, like you said. So I think he's a great example of not why you shouldn't. The crowd that say give players time, he's the best example of that, because obviously they didn't give him the time. But I suppose also another team in that vein that never seemed to get mentioned in that is the Falcons with Brett Favre. I mean, they had him for a season, was it, and then traded him to Green Bay, and he ended up being one of the best quarterbacks, of his generation. So
that was the one I was about to mention, was to the Packers.
Yeah.
So I'll drop in my next one, which is DeAndre Hopkins to the Cardinals.
I
Oh,
was
that was
thinking of that one as well.
You'd
Yeah.
be like, oh mate, I bet there was like two first round picks, four starting players, all of these like pieces we must have got for Hopkins, and then you find out you got David Johnson and a fourth. You what?
Yeah, literally.
It wasn't even David Johnson. That's doing him a disservice. It was Duke Johnson, wasn't it?
It was Duke
Yeah,
Johnson, yeah, and it
yeah.
was, and that was for a player that had like he'd been up there in terms of receiving and stuff, hadn't he? And then obviously had built like a ridiculous career with the Texans.
Mm.
I definitely thought he was staying in Texas. I didn't think he was going to move around, but yeah, that was nuts. That was a crazy one.
another one I want to throw at you is Trent Richardson to the Colts. Unreal player in college, had an unreal damn good rookie season with the Browns. Got traded and then did nothing.
See, that's the one time
Nothing.
that's the one time in that period where the Browns actually like made a proactive good move.
Yeah.
Like they obviously saw it. They obviously saw it, whatever it was, whether it was the fact, a lack of commitment, lack of, effort, whatever it was, if he wasn't putting the effort in training, whatever it was, they saw it, obviously recognised it, and were quick to get rid of him. Which, like you said, was I think a lot of people viewed as a shock, considering how high he was valued coming into the draft just a year before, and then, like you said, just completely fell off a cliff. So that's one of the few times the Browns actually did something good over those periods.
I was going to say he was a top 5 pick. Was he? I know he went first. Was he?
Pretty sure we traded up.
Did
we trade up for him? I'm pretty sure.
What I was going to say, I can't remember. I know he was a top 5 pick.
Yeah, his second or third pick.
Brilliant
I'm
at
pretty sure.
Alabama. He was brilliant at Alabama. Had a great first year, and then just like you say, the Browns saw something.
They must
sent
have,
him to the
yeah,
Colts
yeah.
And he did nothing. But it's an interesting one there that you go from a brilliant college player, a top 3 overall talent, to go to the Browns, and that's like, and then he goes to the Colts and fluffs it. Not even including the Browns in that one as like a.
So he was the third. He was the third pick in his draft.
Wow.
2012.
I got one for you, Ollie, and you'll like this one. How about, again, this is just, we're not knowing context and stuff, like Amari Cooper, who's been playing for the Cowboys and been so consistent for them, then going to the Browns and lining up like that surprised me for sure, even when it did actually happen. Not because the Browns did it, but because the Cowboys let him go, because they got CD now, but they've been trying to look for that number 2 wide receiver spot ever since he left. And nothing's really worked. Yeah, they've had Brandon Cooks, they've had T.Y. Hilton, they've had, all these different guys, but none of them have really, Michael Gallup, but none of them have lived up to what he was.
If Andrew Berry, if you're a GM and Andrew Berry phones you up asking about a wide receiver, hang the phone up. Because he will somehow manage to manipulate you to walk out. He'll ring you up like, so Amari Cooper, what do you think he's worth? Second round pick. How about a 5th? You what? Deal. What? And the deal's done. Do you know what I mean? Getting him for a 5th round pick, getting Jerry Jeudy for a 5th and a 6th round pick. I think if Andrew Berry is ringing your phone as a GM, you're probably beneficial if you don't pick up, because he'll somehow sway you to give up your player for very little.
Another one in the back of my mind is Jamal Adams from the Hawks to the Jets.
Yeah.
2 first round picks.
I know, but one without context for me, and I don't know, because it's a bit wild to me sometimes. Again, I don't know how much anyone actually pays attention to the Lions, and I know it's not a lot until the last year or so. So I don't know. For me, it made sense anyway. In certain ways, it just didn't make sense. But to outsiders, even because my context is different from your context, because I read different sources and all that sort of stuff. But when what's his name? Oh crap! Why has his name gone out of my head now? Cornerback for the Eagles now.
Oh, Charles Gordon
Bradbury.
Johnson.
He's a safety.
Not Gardner
Bradbury.
Johnson.
Not Gardner Johnson.
Oh, Slay.
That's one.
Darius Slay.
Darius Slay.
Darius Slay all of a sudden turning up. Darius Slay leaving and going to the Eagles. That was one that it only made sense given the context that we had of his fallout with Matt Patricia.
Yeah.
So, but what I'm saying there is, for me, that made sense because I understood that. But I don't know how much, like, around the rest of the NFL people knew about that fallout because my perspective on it was different. But yeah, Jamal Adams from the Hawks to the Jets. Jets to the Hawks. Sorry.
Jets to the
I was going to say it's the other way around. It's just the Hawks one.
And Darius Slay from the Lions to the Eagles, both for me again, just ones that if you turn up on week 1, you're going, what?
Yeah. I mean, I've got another trade one for you, and this was without all context and stuff like this, and it's about the jersey that I'm wearing right now. But the Chiefs trading up 20 spots, for a quarterback who was inconsistent in college, like couldn't win because his defense was terrible at Texas Tech and everything. But then to see, like, obviously, they had inklings of what he could be. Obviously, Beach and John Dorsey at the time.
Because you were a fan of the Chiefs then, weren't you? So, but I'd have said, you would have bet money that, because obviously in this scenario, you'd have obviously just assumed it was, you wouldn't know about it, so you'd have just been told that they traded up.
I would have bet money it would be Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, I was just about to say you would have absolutely bet money. You'd have been like, that's it. We just got the national championship winner.
Yep.
We just got Deshaun Watson. Here we go. And then week 1 it'll be Alex Smith. You'll be going, all right, I guess Deshaun hasn't won the job. That's fine. And then you'll see Mahomes on the sideline, and you'll be like, what? Who's that guy? Oh, that's the guy that had like really bad footwork or something.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. We're acting like he was an obscure prospect. He was still a first-round prospect, but you know.
Yeah.
When prepping for the college football podcast a couple of days ago, I was looking at. I like to do a trivia question to pose to them every week, but like most of the time, I'm looking up and figuring out what trivia question I want to ask that week. And one of the things I found out was Patrick Mahomes is like the most yards or most all-purpose yards in a game out of anyone.
Oh, it's gone.
There he is.
I'm back. Patrick Mahomes has the most all-purpose yards out of any quarterback in college football in a single game.
I encourage
769.
I encourage anyone to go and watch that Texas Tech versus Oklahoma game. Him and Baker Mayfield.
God.
Baker had 500 and something yards, like 5 touchdowns. Obviously got the win. But
didn't
Patrick,
they have like 13 touchdowns combined?
Yeah, it was something stupid.
Like...
And Mahomes had like combined 800 yards rushing and passing. It was the most like yards combined between 2 quarterbacks in one game. So anyone listening that hasn't seen the highlights from that game, I do encourage you to go and watch those highlights.
And then there's the yards with his legs as well, not just the ones with his arm.
Yeah.
And if you actually look at most all-purpose yards by a quarterback, so passing and rushing, that's, I think, it's joint top now. Or joint top for the most in a single game.
Yeah.
And then he plays a game like that, and then he goes and plays the Rams-Chiefs game against Goff, and like it just Mahomes isn't shy of an offensive classic, is he?
No,
he's a Texas Tech guy, man. That's what Texas Tech DNA is, isn't it? They're just a complete. They don't play defense in the Big 12. It's just pure.
It's just air raid offense.
Yeah, it's just air raid, pure shootouts. We'll just win 55-54. Like it's just pure shootouts.
That's definitely something he's had to learn in the NFL as well. That you can actually rely on your defense.
But that's where the criticisms came. That's where the criticisms for him going into the draft came from, didn't it? It was just this idea that is it going to translate to the NFL? All the previous guys that had come out of those kind of similar air raid offenses, they hadn't worked out. I mean, you look at. Cliff Kingsbury ran that Texas air raid system when he was playing. Lincoln Riley ran that system when he was playing. All these players that no one was really able to translate that into the NFL. So, that's where the kind of criticisms and the why some people were scared of, from drafting Mahomes that year. But I'm
Yeah, it was
thinking,
66-59 in that game.
yeah, insane games, great game to
God.
watch.
And also, I found out that doesn't even crack like the top 10 highest scoring college football games
Oh
of all
no,
time.
yeah, definitely
Oh
not.
wow.
I found out the other day that there are 3 games in history where a team has won by 200 plus to nothing.
Yeah,
That's just you're talking in like the 1910s and
yeah. There's that
1920s
famous
against
scorecard. Yeah,
schools that like didn't have a football program anymore.
yeah.
The highest one was like 200.
Yale
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
versus like some random high school almost that that doesn't even have a team. Basically, they just rounded up like the local maths club to come and play for them.
Basically, yeah, like the 222 nothing. Georgia Tech beat
Yeah, that's the one.
like
That's yeah,
Cumberland. They beat
yeah,
a
that's
team
the
called
one.
Cumberland. Mate, Cumberland's a sausage.
Yeah,
Um,
Yeah, literally.
but as we get there, there's a lot of trades I think we can all talk about, especially
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
especially the second context is removed. A
Yes.
million different
Yeah.
trades could get added into this conversation, and we've gone through quite a lot, and it's been brilliant. But on the topic of trades, like most big trades have happened now this off season, there are going to be very few major trades happening between now and the season starting. Once the season starts, maybe we'll see, but I think anything that was going to seriously happen has happened, and I think this is now then a good time to start looking at most teams. This is your roster now, apart from maybe a couple of UFL players getting in, and as we've mentioned before, maybe a player goes down in the off season, in training camp, and then they're out for the season. They've torn their ACL. They've torn their ACL putting together a bit of flat pack furniture in the new house. Like they've done something, and they're out for the season, and that can disrupt a team's whole season. But most likely, what we're looking at now is the vast majority of what we're going to get this season, and I think it's a good time now we can look at and say there are certain storylines which are going to start unfolding, and we can start looking at storylines for the season. Now I've got a couple here just in case, and I think actually well give us one to start, and then we'll look at, I think, just coming up with some of the big storylines of the season. What have we got to look forward to? What are the things that basically what are the storylines? We'll start off with history, a three-peat. No team has ever done it in the at least in the Super Bowl era. No team has ever won 3 Super Bowls back to back. But Tom's Chiefs have the chance to do it. Let's start with that storyline. I'm not asking you how it pans out. I'm not asking you because of course, Tom, you think the Chiefs are probably going to win the Super Bowl. You are biased in that question. But what does is that? Sorry, what's that like for a storyline going into the season?
I mean, I think it's going to be incredibly hard. Like you said, there's a reason why no team's ever done it before. But then again, I did say that it would be incredibly hard for them to do the repeat. So the first, just winning 2 in a row, I thought would be hard, and they managed to prove that. So not taking anything away from them, I'm not going to write them off. I think they probably are currently the favourites to win the Super Bowl again next year when you look at the kind of the landscape at the minute. But it just feels like 3 in a row. Obviously, I'm sure Tom will disagree, but it just feels like something that is almost impossible to do in the NFL.
I agree. I mean, even as a Chiefs fan, I'm realistic to the fact that history isn't on the side of the Chiefs, and the schedule makers haven't made it any easier either. With them giving they're playing games in 6 days a week, got an early bye and all this kind of stuff. But obviously, it's a special group, and I hope they do it. But obviously, if we're talking historical standpoint, then the likelihood is that they won't. That doesn't stop me believing that they can do it. But the fact that there's even the thought of a three-peat now is just crazy, though. With the parity of today's league as well, the fact that they've been able to go back to back is insane. Anyway, so Obviously, I'm still rooting for them to do it. But yeah, obviously, it's going to be very tough road to get to that point if they can.
I mean, personally, like, can we just have someone else win it for once? Like, it's getting boring now. Like, come on. Like, do you know what I mean? So, no, no. All seriousness, I think it will be a really tough challenge. But if anyone is gonna be the first person to achieve such a thing in NFL history, then and why not? Patrick Mahomes that has already kind of achieved stuff that we've never seen in NFL history before. So, if anyone can do it, I think Patrick Mahomes is that guy. Um, but I think it's going to have to be an AFC team to stop him because there's not really anyone. If he makes the Super Bowl, he wins it unless it's against Tom Brady, who is basically an AFC quarterback. He was just on loan to the NFC that year. But
And he owns the 49ers, so I don't care
yeah,
what any
yeah,
49ers
he owns
fan
the
says.
49ers. He beat the Eagles. So if anyone's going to do it, it's going to have to be the AFC. So fine, the Browns will volunteer this year and step up and knock them off
Well,
their perch.
let me just double check, because if I'm right, ever since the Lions played the Chiefs in London, and the Chiefs beat the living crap out of us. It wasn't pretty at all. But ever since then, they haven't beaten the Lions, and we played a couple of times. Even Matt Patricia's Lions beat you, Tom. So maybe it might have to be the Lions who do it. I'm just saying,
Ooh,
if there's an NFC team
maybe.
that's clearly got Big Red's number.
But if
Not
you guys had got to the Super Bowl last year, we would have beaten you. So I'm pretty confident in that. Because we
yeah,
would
pretty.
we would have actually had Travis Kelce and Chris Jones, unlike we did in Week 1. So,
You're right,
but
and we would have had Kindle Vildar.
yeah, I'm sure
Um,
Mahomes would be licking his lips thinking about, oh yeah, like Kobe Joseph and Kendall Vildor and Cam Sutton. So yeah.
See, all I'm hearing there is fair. So
Trembling as he said their
no,
names.
I was wrong. Matt Patricia's Lions did not beat the Chiefs, but it was a really close game. But we did not. But we are on a one-game winning streak against you. So Dan Campbell has his number. I'll
Well,
take that.
they got
I'll
to cheat
take
to beat the
it
Browns
instead.
anyway. So
Um, but I
whole
do think
dynasty's a lie.
Oh, what Daniel Sorensen is that what you're referring
Don't
to?
ever
Yeah,
say
I'm
that
sure.
name in here again.
I mean, I
how
hate him as much as you. He was trash, but yeah.
other than obviously we all know the Bills losing 4 in a row. So
Mm.
obviously they made 4 in a row. But when was the last time a team even made 3 in a row? Because I know the last
Patriots,
team
was it?
of the last team other than the Chiefs to make 2 in a row
Was
was
Patriots?
no,
No,
it was the
Seahawks.
Seahawks.
Yeah.
It's the Seahawks,
And then
yeah, back
before
to
that
back.
it was the Patriots, but none of them made 3 in a row.
So did the Patriots not
Mm.
make two in a row in those later Brady years? Obviously, the Eagles game, the Rams one, and the Falcons one. When was that? 17, 18.
Yeah, so the Falcons one was 17, 18,
And
wasn't
then
it?
wasn't it? Didn't he make it the next year against the Eagles, and then lost to the Eagles? Was that not the next
18,
year?
19. No, I think that was the next year.
So he made two, but obviously didn't
I
win
think
two.
he made the two, but then didn't win.
Yeah, obviously
Yeah.
lost to the Eagles, didn't
Mm.
Uh, Again,
In
I
an
was
offensive
wrong.
shootout, that was a great game.
I was wrong. The Patriots did make 3 in a row.
he? Yeah, Eagles,
Beat
Rams,
the Falcons,
Falcons.
lost to the Eagles, beat the
Yeah,
Rams.
yeah. But
Ah,
obviously
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
didn't
that's what I
win
mean.
two in a row
Apologies.
though.
Mm.
Apologies.
Because they were the
I
last team to
did not
do
read that
to do the repeat back in obviously
The repeat
the
back
first
in
stint.
03, 04.
Yeah, yeah, the
03,
first
04 was
stint.
the last one. Yeah, so 19 years.
properly. But yeah, they made 3, but they only won. They won 2 out of the 3, but lost the middle one to the Eagles. So I mean, making a third one isn't, it's not unheard of.
Well, the Chiefs have been to 4 in the last, was it 4 and 5?
4 out of 5, yeah.
4 out of 5. Obviously, they lost that one against the Bucks, but still going to 4 out of 5 is pretty insane.
I mean, Mahomes has made the AFC Championship game every year as a starter.
Every year that he's been a starter.
Like I said, it's getting boring now, man. Just give someone else a chance. Like, grow up.
And he put that narrative to bed in the playoffs last year as well. The fact that you can't win. Well, I don't know, but like he just played at home in the postseason. He goes to Buffalo and then he goes to Baltimore and wins both those games. So
just can't beat Joe Burrow, obviously.
Yeah, he's the only person in the playoffs other than Tom Brady to beat him.
And then when you look at the fact that Joe Burrow can't beat the Browns, he can't
beat the Browns to save his life.
That's in our favour. Then I think if you correlate the two, then like I said, I think that's going to work all right for us. Maths.
Fair enough. But I think, like you say, I think that storyline is definitely one of the more interesting. But I tell you who won't be the ones to stop. I tell you who can't stop. That'd be the Bills. If you're putting your money on the Bills to do what Ollie's asking, you've lost your money. That's not happening. The Bills can't stop Mahomes.
No. Well, they can't do it at playoff time. No.
He couldn't do it with Diggs, so I don't think he's going to be doing it without him.
I want to throw this one to you, Ollie, as a storyline for the season that I feel like is quite interesting. Now, everyone knows, and you've been banging the drum for it for quite a while now, and I don't see anyone disagreeing for the most part. The AFC North, on paper, going into the season, is the toughest division. And I don't think... There are a couple other very tough divisions, but it's not particularly close as to which one's the toughest. And that's the AFC North. Now, that's on paper. That's when you look at all the stuff that's in front of you as it stands. Do you think... And I know you're a bit biased in this one, but what does the AFC North have to do to walk away at the end of the season going, okay, we were right, that is the toughest division? Is it a case of all 4 teams having a winning record to finish the season and everyone going, see, look, they're kicking everyone's ass?
You see, we did that last year, and now everyone thinks that's a normal thing. Like that, last year was the first time that in NFL history that a division, every single team in a division had a winning record. Obviously in the AFC North last season. So, to answer your question, I don't think it's what the AFC North has to do. I think it's what another division would have to do. The AFC North is going to be the AFC North. I mean, even if, let's just say, Bengals have a terrible year next year, the Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens are still going to be good. You know, swap any of those teams out. Let's say they have a catastrophic season. You know, something happens and they have a really bad season. The other 3 teams are still going to be good. So I think it's more of a case of what another division would have to do to overthrow them. Yes, if another division finishes this year with all of their teams with a winning record, like the AFC North did last season, I might listen to the argument. But I think, you know, personally, I've been saying it the last few years. You know, now that everyone's kind of on a national scale agreeing, because of what they've done the last couple of years with, obviously, like I just said, you know, every team winning every game last season, winning every game, every team having a finishing record. Finishing record? I can't speak now, it's been going on for that long. Winning record. So, yeah, I don't think it's something that they can do or even something that they can lose. I think it's more so just another division would really have to, you know, every team have a winning record, every team be really, really good for it to even be considered better than the AFC North, in my opinion.
Okay, interesting. What about you, Tom? Do you think what division is going to be the biggest challenger to the AFC North for the toughest division in the league? Shout.
It's a good question.
Because I'm going to throw it out there and say that the NFC North is the toughest division in the NFC. But you've got the AFC South, which is looking strong.
Yeah, very true.
I mean, the NFC West is kind of being the normal one.
In the gauntlet, hasn't it?
But the Cardinals bring those down. The Seahawks, we don't really know what they're going to be like.
We don't know what's going to happen with them. Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well.
if there's a team that takes it off, takes that toughest division in the league title off them, who do you think it's going to be?
If it's not the AFC North, you're saying. Yeah, see, I would say the NFC West, but then at the same time, what Ollie said is like, I think you got two teams that are like really good in, the Rams and the 49ers. Then you got the Seahawks, who you don't really know what they're doing, but they're always a tough team. And then the Cardinals, who even last year, like they were like really tough team. Even though I know obviously their record didn't, but they were in like most of the games that they played.
Like, not the Browns game where we 27-0, but other than that one, yeah.
Yeah. But you know what I mean.
No, I know what you
on
mean,
the
yeah.
whole,
But I think
they were.
I think we
they even beat the Cowboys, didn't they? Right,
and the Eagles,
yeah.
and the
Eagles.
But
so.
I think we would be surprised if they had a winning record. I
Yeah,
think is the point, and I think
true.
so. What you're looking at is what division has basically where every team you wouldn't be surprised if they finished with a winning record, and I mean the NFC North would be a pretty good shout if you're banking on Caleb obviously being good, but then you do also have the Vikings as well in there with obviously JJ McCarthy, so that's another team that you don't really know how they're going to be. Because obviously they've got Sam Darnold and a rookie quarterback. So, I mean, like I said, I don't think
AFC teams I would think of as well, because I was trying to think the AFC West, but then I don't think the Raiders are going to be very good.
Yeah, AFC South. You got the. I mean, the AFC South is an interesting one because I mean you got the Jags are the Jags. So, but they could. We wouldn't be surprised if they went 9-8. The Titans, you don't think will be good, but I mean, you look at the players they brought in.
Though,
so you said, so they could be sneaky.
They're probably the most likely one, aren't they? I would say probably the AFC South of the other ones.
Personally, I don't think any division. That might just sound biased, but I don't think there's any division currently that's operating in the same scale as the AFC North. But I think what makes the AFC North so good as well that a lot of people don't really realise is that there's been so much continuity within the division. I mean, Kevin Stefanski being the head coach for 4 years, Jim Harbaugh has been at Baltimore for 20 years nearly now. Taylor's been there longer than so. Stefanski's the most recent hired head coach in the division, and he was hired in 2020. So when you've got that level of continuity within the division, they've kind of the same star players have been within that division for the last 5 years. When you look at Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson, Myles Garrett, Nick Chubb, these kind of players. So I think that's what makes the division so good, is that there's no other division in the NFL that has seen that level of continuity amongst the whole division, which means they're able to just maintain that level of talent and success.
I mean, the number one again, it's not the view I share, but one of the divisions that consistently gets touted that way is the NFC North. Now, I think the Vikings are going to be terrible. I do think the Vikings are going to be pretty terrible this year. Because, and I don't know what they're going to do around Justin Jefferson. I think that's just going to be a big cloud looming over them.
Surely they have to pay him before week 1, my days.
Well, yeah, but also, I mean, look, with all due respect, I'm a Michigan fan, but do you think if I'm Justin Jefferson, do I want JJ McCarthy going through his first couple of seasons in the NFL throwing to me? Not really. I think the Vikings have always been one of those teams where it's always been felt like they don't tank. I don't think they have it within them to tank, but I don't think that's a Vikings thing. I think that was a Kirk Cousins thing.
I wish they did.
Kirk Cousins is a fighter.
They'd look great with Drake May or Taylor right now. Imagine. They'd look unbelievable.
Kirk's a fighter, and I don't think Kirk has it in him to go down and just lose. I think so. Without Kirk Cousins at the helm and in the building, I think they might end up having a bit of a crappy year and maybe tanking slightly a little bit. That takes the NFC North out of it immediately. You also have to have everything work for Caleb Williams straight off the bat. And look, the Lions and the Packers are going to be the Lions and the Packers. I don't think we're going to go for it with a couple of games to go this year. The Packers are going to take us the whole way down that stretch. It's going to come down to that last game. obviously I don't want it to. I want all three of those teams to fail. I don't want to be in the hardest division in the league. I want to be
It does.
really,
It
really
does
easy
get
division.
quite annoying sometimes being in a division that is as good as it is. But like I've said before, I think it does battle test you to a certain extent. But I mean, just to further the point, I mean, I think it's the only division that you could realistically, every fan base for the team in that division could make the argument that they think their team could win the Super Bowl, and you wouldn't call them deluded. Do you know what I mean? Like, even a Steelers fan, as much as I would laugh at them, I don't think most NFL fans would laugh in the faces of Steelers fans saying we can win a Super Bowl. We're the Steelers, of course we can win a Super Bowl. The Ravens fans, we can win a Super Bowl. Yeah, of course you probably think that. Bengals fans, of course you think that. Browns fans, you might not think we think that, but we do think that. So I think, again, it's the only division where you could see all teams having a winning record, and it's also the only division where you wouldn't be surprised if their fan base truly believed they could win a Super Bowl that year.
I mean, look, at the end of the day, the last two Super Bowls have been won by the Chiefs, who can Conor McGregor walk the way through to winning the division. Against the Broncos, the Raiders, and especially this season's Chargers. The Chiefs can do roly-polies and little cartwheels and just kind of stroll the way over to it. And then
that was like Brady over them years.
Turn it on.
I was going to say that there's a reason why Mahomes has only lost, I think 3 games in a division in his whole career. Like, he just owns the AFC West, and because a lot of the teams haven't been that good, really. Obviously, the Chargers aren't, but they always give a good fight. Or whatever,
the Chargers have been his biggest threat, and
I would say they've been the biggest threat. And then he had that random game where the Raiders blew out the Chiefs, but then every other time since then, other than obviously December, but that was a weird game. But in general, we've battered the Raiders. So,
as far as you talk about consistency, particularly at the head coach position throughout the AFC North, and that's one thing so understated in this league is consistency,
100%.
particularly at that level of the game, in making a good franchise. Speaking of, I guess, head coaches and consistency and getting so many years coaching one team, one of the big stories for this season has to be, what does it take to get Robert Saleh fired at this point? He's got rid of Zach Wilson. Zach Wilson is no longer in the building. Aaron Rodgers should be healthy to start the season, and they battle test it to the point where if Aaron Rodgers go down, they've got a backup that they're a lot more comfortable with and familiar with. They've got pieces on offense. They've got an elite defense. I'm going to ask you this. How many wins saves Robert Saleh?
They have to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I don't think it's
if they don't make the playoffs, then he shouldn't be the coach.
Yeah, I don't think it's a number. I think it's like Tom said. I think it's they have to make the playoffs. And even then, I mean, I think they have to make the playoffs convincingly. If they scrape into the playoffs, get lucky on a last game where a team that should have won their game, fluke loses their game and they just sneak into that last spot, and then get blown out in their wild card game. Even that would be enough for me to get rid of him. For me,
I was going to say if they make it to the divisional round, or if they get through the wild card round and they're in the divisional round and then they lose, I don't know, a close game against, the Ravens or whatever, then that might justify him actually staying. But as Ollie said, if they make it to the wild card, if they make it into the playoffs, into the wild card round, and then get boat raced, then surely they need someone else.
You've got to make clear progress. I say that anything will be progress over the last few years, but you've got to make a clear statement that you are good enough to challenge in the top of the AFC. So whether that's getting to the AFC Championship game or losing a close game, like you said, in an earlier round.
Because
they can't just keep relying on the fact that, because they all, a lot of the time they say, we've got an elite defense, but it's but you actually need to make the playoffs.
You need to win games.
Yeah.
I mean, like we're saying though about the AFC, at the end of the day, you're looking at what you've got, all 4 divisions, and you've got a wild card spot. The division champions, the AFC North, AFC West and AFC South. Whoever wins those divisions don't affect really their position in the AFC East, but it's those wild card positions that would at this point. Now I think we look at teams that if you scrape the playoffs and get in, they're the teams where you sat there think at the start of the season, a team that's happy with that is a team that's maybe they're starting to get things right. He's had 3 years. He's traded the farm to get a lot of pieces into that franchise.
Yeah.
This is more than just hopefully they're starting to get things right. If you call someone a playoff team, they've got to be unless by pure fluke they can't be the seventh wild card, and like you say, they can't get shafted in the wild card rounds. So yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and that was going to be my question the second you said playoffs was, but what if it's all well and good saying, look, the Bills are the Bills, the Dolphins are the Dolphins, and I think both teams will be very not 100% sure about the Bills this season, but I think
I'm not 100% sure about the Dolphins, to be honest.
I mean, I like what Mike McDaniel's doing. I just think it's a case of just really putting it all together and getting it over the lines.
Yeah, past November, that's what they need to do.
Yeah, well, yeah. But
when the weather gets a bit colder.
Yeah, when things get cold.
Can't wait to see him in Cleveland week 17.
But they have a shot at their division, a real shot.
Yeah, true.
That's not a guaranteed win division for them per se, unless Rodgers plays all 17 games and is on point. That could be a decently won division, but it's not a guarantee. So you've got to look at those wildcard spots, and I reckon at least 2 AFC North teams might take one of them. Or maybe an AFC North and an AFC South team are going to take one of those spots. So you've got to look at. You are looking at a very. Those wildcard spots are going to be hard fought for. They're not yours.
Yeah.
You get a decent.
You might need to win the division.
10-7. 10-7 might not cut it. End of story. 10-7 might not cut it.
Yeah, you might need to be 11-6. Yeah, you're not gonna. Yeah.
I think as well, it's how he. Not how he approaches the season, not like how he approaches it, but it's how he deals with adversity and things that happen throughout the season. Something that he's proven not very well at doing. I mean, not to constantly bring up the Browns, obviously, as the Browns fan, but you look at our situation last season and the Jets situation last season. Both the starting quarterbacks go down, and Kevin Stefanski won Coach of the Year, whereas obviously Salah's finishes the season with everyone calling for his job, and it just goes to show. So it's not just what the play, what the win totals are, what the how good the team is on the field. I think it's as well if he can actually prove that when shit hits the fan, he's got the capability to guide the team as the head coach of that team. Something I just don't think he's proven that he can do yet. Or
Talk about the Browns all you want. It's just a nice change from the Colts. But I think...
Love it.
Is there any other story?
Colts. Well, other than the Browns are going to win 17 games and win the Super Bowl, and Nick Chubb's going to come back and rush for 20,000 yards.
Comeback player of the year, Nick Chubb.
Comeback player of the year, Nick Chubb.
Come on.
Joint comeback player of the year, Nick Chubb and Deshaun Watson, which just to make it even funnier, because I'm sure the NFL would love to give Deshaun Watson a award. No, I mean, I'm sure that's not a storyline that you guys co-signed, but I mean, I suppose the Texans going all in this year. I mean, you have to really, don't you? When you're given the opportunity of having a potentially elite quarterback on a rookie contract, it's basically like the golden ticket in the NFL. It's almost like it's the biggest advantage you can have in a league that is so parity driven. The biggest advantage you can have is having that potentially elite quarterback on a rookie contract, which then obviously allows you to invest all of that money that you're saving into other areas of the team. Which boy, they have done that this year. Obviously, the pieces they brought in, trading for Diggs, you love to see it. I mean, I'm a fan of Stroud, so it's good to see that his team is supporting him. So I think that's another storyline. Is they're all in, and how will they handle those expectations? We've seen it quite a lot, over the last years of the NFL, where someone has a really good rookie season, all the hype gets kind of put on them. You look at Baker Mayfield at the Browns a few years ago, 6 years ago now. I feel old, but so you can have all that expectation and not live up to it. So we'll have to wait and see, and see if the Stroud or the Texans can live up to these expectations.
And then what about the other team in Texas as well? Do you know, all in, like all in?
All in, my
all
ass.
in, yeah. But it'll be
Pause.
interesting to see what the Cowboys do in terms of, they've gone all in with not, extending Dak. They want him to play out, and they obviously are very haunted by that performance that they had last year against the Packers in the playoffs, and they need to see some. Well, Jerry Jones is basically saying in no uncertain terms, need to see progress, need to see us get to an NFC Championship game, and actually, perform in it. So yeah, I'll be interested to see what the Cowboys do really, but that's probably the only other. Well, another one as well, and whether they play CD as well before the season starts. So yeah,
Interesting.
I think that's it.
So I'm going to pose one quick question to you now before we go, because I'm conscious of the time and I realise that we've waffled on a bit. Thanks, Tom. It was your job to keep me and Ollie in check.
We worried about the time of this episode, if we wouldn't be able to get a full episode, obviously with the short cast that we've got this week, and we've ended up recording one of our longest episodes. So it's just funny how this always works.
Yeah. But a storyline, again, I didn't want to bring this up, but I'm not interested in this storyline per se, but I'm interested in your thoughts on this concept for a team. I've heard it's been posed to Dan Campbell this week that and asked if the Lions are in Super Bowl or bust. Now, I hate the term Super Bowl or bust, and I'm not necessarily, give me your opinions on it if you want to, and I'm thick-skinned if they want to be mean opinions, but I might cry later. But Super Bowl or bust, is that a truth? Is that a thing? And it's like, with the expectations that are on the Chiefs, is Super Bowl or bust a thing for the Chiefs? Is Super Bowl or bust a thing for any team? If so, why? And what does that window look like to you? What does that concept look like to you? If not, cool, sound. Can move on.
Yes and no. So, yes, in a sense of every team is Super Bowl and bust. It's why you play the sport. It's why these teams are in the league. Every team is trying. Well, they're obviously not. We know how it works, but you would hope that every team is trying to win a Super Bowl. To even no team is going to say no. This season we're going to not focus on the Super Bowl. We're going to focus on this. No, every team is trying to win a Super Bowl. So I agree from that perspective, but then I disagree. That's why I disagree with it as well, because it's like, look, of course he's trying to win a Super Bowl. Of course, the Lions are trying to win a Super Bowl. They made the NFC Championship game last season. What are you going to say? No, let's do worse than that next season. No, of course. The only thing you can do better than that is make the Super Bowl. So, yes, obviously you're Super Bowl or bust. That's the goal. You want to win a Super Bowl. If you don't win the Super Bowl, disappointment, bust, whatever you want to call it. Like that's how it works. The only way from my fandom where I could maybe give my team a leeway of not that Super Bowl or bust is, if you're rebuilding, you're kind of in that current process. But other than that, most NFL teams are trying to win a Super Bowl. So I just think it's a stupid thing to even ask, really.
I don't know. I get what you're saying in terms of that. Obviously, every team is trying to win it, but at the same time, the expectations on some teams more than another. Obviously, speaking of the Chiefs, is Super Bowl or bust, because they've been to back-to-back. So if they don't win a Super Bowl, they're going to be seen as a failure or whatever, right? But as you said, Ollie, as well, there is rebuilding. Like, the Panthers are not Super Bowl or bust right now. They are just let's try and get some wins and build around the continuity of with Bryce Young and all this kind of stuff. But I get what you're saying, but I think there's different heightened expectations for different teams, though.
Of course, but I feel like that's anyone that entertains that, oh, you won the last two Super Bowls, you didn't win the Super Bowl this year, you're a massive failure. Like anyone who entertains that level of thinking and that discourse, is just silly to me anyway. You know,
I agree.
most people would. I mean, it's hard to win a Super Bowl. That's why, you know, the Chiefs potentially doing the three-peat this year. That's why it's never been done before. It's, you know, more than most leagues, the NFL. It's very hard to dominate. It's very hard to hold you know, to have that level of success over a sustained period of time. So, it's just, to me, it's just silly to criticize a team. Yes, you're going to be disappointed if you don't win a Super Bowl, of course. And like you said, yes, obviously some teams are going to have more expectation. I agree with that. As a Browns fan that's dealing with expectation for the first time in our fanhood, you know, it's something that obviously I understand exists. But I just think the whole notion of Super Bowl or bust is just silly to me. You know, every team should be trying to win a Super Bowl. If you don't win a Super Bowl, yep, you're disappointed. But at the end of the day, that was the goal. So yes,
you're right there. Yeah, what else are you in the sport for? Other than to
and I know
trophy,
that doesn't happen. You know, of course. I mean, let's be real. I know Chapman's probably not going to enjoy this one, but you know, the Falcons didn't sign Kirk Cousins thinking that was going to take them over the bar to win the Super Bowl. I mean, some teams are content with, well, it might not win us a Super Bowl, but it can sell playoff seats over the next couple of years to keep it over. Like we all understand that happens, but in a vacuum, the idea of Super Bowl or bust, yes, every team should be Super Bowl or bust. Every team should be trying to win a Super Bowl.
You're right. It insults the teams that are just trying to do that every year. Every year, there's 32 teams going out to try and win a Super Bowl. So the notion of Super Bowl or bust is like, there's 31 teams that don't win the Super Bowl.
And especially to the Lions,
like,
do you know what I mean? This is a team that has been unsuccessful for 30 years. Finally had a good run. Finally in a position where they look like they, you know, might actually challenge for a Super Bowl. And you're putting this on them, like, oh, is it Super Bowl or bust? Is it this and that? It's like, bro, chill, man. But
well, you see, the thing for me as well, though, is that it's let's not forget that this sport isn't like the sports that we have over here. We talk about parity and disparity and all that sort of stuff, but this is can't speak English. It's cyclical league. This is a cyclical sport. The same is similar to the NBA, similar to the MLB. American sports work on being cyclical. If that's a word, great. Then you understood me. If that's not, then you get where I'm going with it.
No, I get what you mean.
It works on a constantly rotating basis. The whole point is that if a dynasty gets made, it has to be special. Tom Brady and the Patriots were special. Patrick Mahomes and Big Red, it's special what they've got going on. It's special what they're doing. It has to be to have a dynasty. But teams are going to constantly evolve and change, and teams have to have down years. Teams have to have up years. There are going to be changes. Apart from the Browns and the Lions, who've had 60 years of down years, and then maybe one or two here and there.
Hey, we were good in the 80s.
And we were good in the early 90s, but that was like twice. But the cycles that this league works on, like, there are windows. So, Super Bowl or bust, all 32 teams, the end goal is to win the Super Bowl. But, like you say, all 32 teams are not walking into the season going, we have an equal opportunity to win the league. For Christ's sake, man, the Denver Broncos have Zach Wilson and Bo Nix. They don't have an equal opportunity while they're in a division with Patrick Mahomes and, you know, these teams are. It's not equal, and for it to be Super Bowl or bust, for me, that implies that if a season is Super Bowl or bust, you have built a roster, you have built a program, you have built something that this is your last shot at going to a Super Bowl for at least the next cycle. We talk about it with the Bills and Josh Allen. We spoke about it with the Bills and Josh Allen.
And everyone said that about the Chiefs, though. I mean, everyone, you know, when they traded Tyreek Hill, as we've alluded to before, oh, is it now Super Bowl or bust? Oh, when he was on his rookie contract, you know, when Mahomes first came into the league and was on his rookie contract, oh, is it Super Bowl or bust this year when it's the final year on his rookie contract? And as he proved, obviously that's Patrick Mahomes. So, you know, we should always put an asterisk when you're using him for a comparison. But I don't know.
No, look, there's a reason why nobody's asked this question of the Texans. The reason being that, like you say, their quarterback is on a rookie contract. They can keep the level of the rest of that franchise high because the quarterback's on a rookie contract. In 4 years, in 3 years' time, when they have to pay CJ Stroud, maybe not. Maybe some areas of the team have to take a bit of a hit. But right now, they can put talent across the board and pay that talent for the next 3-4 years. That's not a Super Bowl or bust window. That's a, just keep doing what you're doing. It'll come at one point.
But that's why I disagree with it for the Lions, because you've done that, but the opposite. All your good skill players. I mean, obviously you paid Amon-Ra St. Brown and Penny Sewell this year, but majority of your roster and a lot of your good skill positions are on cheap rookie contracts. So I disagree with it as a point of view to even put at the Lions. Just as you pay Jared Goff now, you're still in a position where I personally think you'll be good over the next few years, and I don't think you're going to have any less of a chance next season than you would the season upcoming. So I just think it's a stupid question to ask anyway, and especially a stupid question to put towards Dan Campbell and the Lions.
But if you talk it, so okay, I'll ask this question to kind of end the episode. As far as Super Bowl or bust goes, like you say, the Lions may not be in that position because there are other teams that are in worse position. The Lions have a position to set themselves up for the next couple of years. Is there any team that is Is there any team that is Super Bowl or bust that has to make the Super Bowl? 49ers, is their window closing? The Ravens, is their window closing?
My Browns, arguably, for a lot of people, if you looked at it from the standpoint that it's Super Bowl or bust, because that's why we traded for Deshaun Watson, was to make the Super Bowl. So Super Bowl or bust, even so for Deshaun Watson more so than the team, because, if we, not saying they have to make the Super Bowl, but Super Bowl or bust as a concept, because if we don't make the playoffs next season and he's bad, Browns are probably making the moves to move on from him. So even though I've just said that I don't agree with the statement, if you were to apply the statement, you could apply that to the Browns for those reasons that I've just given.
Yeah, I would say the two that I talked about before, maybe the Cowboys. Even though it's like I agree with Ollie, I don't really agree with the statement as the case, but the fact that they've gone all in question marks, obviously, them not making it, to an NFC Championship, that's Super Bowl, is not going to cut it, and there's going to be wholesale changes to that organization if that doesn't take place. So you could argue they're in that sort of window.
Yeah, fair enough. And on that note, as we just, I think it's time, gents, that we wrap it up. This has been a long episode.
Our longest episode, I believe, with the least amount of people that we've had on here. But
there are a couple of things that will get cut. We'll shave a few minutes off.
It just goes to show that put any of the Hurdle the Line co-hosts on camera together, and they can talk NFL for hours on end. So
yeah, very true. Very true.
With that in mind, thank you both for joining me this evening. Very, very much appreciated that you would take time out of your bank holiday and spend it talking football at the end of May.
What better way to spend your time, guys? What better way to spend our time?
Exactly.
My friend, the most interesting thing we spoke about all day is a 70-year-old man having a baby with a 26-year-old.
Yep.
And we've made an hour and 40 minutes nearly.
And just think, as long as one person gets a giggle out of that, I'm happy. So, and it will be Chapman that will be that person that has a giggle. So,
right, you little line hurdlers. We will see you next week, hopefully with a few more people, and I can get back to being backstage. In the meantime, follow Hurdle the Line on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook at Hurdle the Line. Follow the Asleep at Work Network. Check all the descriptions below to support the podcast, to support the network, to follow all of our fantastic co-hosts, and we will see you next week. Goodbye.